This summer, Matthew and I spent a week in Iceland. To prepare for our trip, I decided to read the greatest Icelandic novel ever written. It's called Independent People by Halldór Laxness. Halldór Laxness is the only Icelander to win the Nobel Prize in Literature. And I have to say, it's one of the most depressing novels I've ever read, ever. It's about a guy named Bjartur, who is a sheep farmer out in the middle of nowhere in Iceland. And the reason the novel is called Independent People is because Bjartur prizes his independence above all things, even his own life and the life and welfare of his family. He refuses to accept help from anybody. So he just ekes out a living in this little sod house in the most unbelievably harsh conditions. This is before World War II, when Iceland's economy got better. At that time, before that, people were just living at this really subsistence level. And you can imagine how cold it is in Iceland. At one point, Bjartur's pregnant wife is literally starving to death. And one day, in desperation, she kills one of the sheep while he's away and starts cooking it and eating it because she's just so hungry. They only have about 10 sheep, and they rely on their livelihood for on these Icelandic sheep. Who Icelandic sheep, I learned this when I was in Iceland, have developed a wool over time that keeps them warm and dry even in these really, really harsh conditions, which is why Icelandic sweaters are so expensive, because they use this wool that can be found nowhere else. So each of these sheep is just incredibly valuable. So when Bjartur comes home and the sheep is gone, and his wife lies to him and says, "Oh, the sheep ran away." So Bjartur goes out in the snowstorm looking for this sheep. And it's the most arduous and harrowing journey to read about. Bjartur almost freezes to death. Like, all this horrible stuff happens. Finding this sheep that isn't even there. So, what's this parable about? Who are the lost sheep supposed to represent? And also, who does Jesus think he needs to hear this? Like, who is Jesus addressing this parable to? Those are the two questions that I tried to look at. He's talking to the Pharisees and the religious scholars. And I think we tend to think of Pharisees a lot of times as these religious leaders who were holier than thou and looked down their noses at these so-called sinners, who were maybe like marginalized people. But it's actually kind of the reverse. Pharisees didn't approve of the tax collectors because the Pharisees were trying to protect Jewish society from the Roman Empire, from the violence, and from the violation of the religious law that was so precious to them. And the sinners and tax collectors that Jesus was eating with were actually in cahoots with the Roman Empire. So the tax collectors were often very wealthy. They made their fortunes through extortion and bribery and through colluding with this violent Roman government. They had a lot of contact, physical contact with Roman money and social contact with Roman officials of the empire that was oppressing the Jewish people. So they were seen as traitors to their religion and to their people by the Pharisees. I like to think of myself as a religious scholar and somebody who's an expert, if there is one, on what Christianity really is. And so I am shocked and horrified at the way certain people who say they're Christian are in collusion with the violence of the empire that we are living under. Over the past couple days, obviously, I've been thinking a lot about Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated this week. He identified as Christian, and he's being celebrated as a Christian martyr by a group of Christians. But to me, when he says things like, empathy was made up and is a BS term, or, Black people go around targeting white people, when he said this stuff, I thought he was a white supremacist and imperialist. He said gun deaths were the price we had to pay. I've also been thinking about Pastor Doug Wilson, who how many people, has anybody heard of Doug Wilson here? So good, you're normal if you haven't heard of him. Doug Wilson is the pastor to all of the young men and women who work in the government under the current regime. He's a Christian nationalist, and he has a very, very violent patriarchal theology. He says slavery wasn't so bad, for example. So that's one of the reasons why the Smithsonian is now being forced to look at all of its exhibits on slavery, because Doug Wilson's like, well, there were some good things about it. He says women shouldn't have gotten the vote. He thinks every household should have a vote because he thinks that's the way it was in the past. So I look at these guys and I'm the Pharisee. I feel protective of my religion and what I think it stands for. And when these guys talk about Jesus, I can't stand to hear them talk about Jesus. So they're my lost sheep. They're the ones I have to show the boundless love of God to. Last week, I told everybody to break free from the group and find your belovedness in God. And when I look at each of you, it's so easy to see that belovedness. You are the dearest people to me. And every day I want to tell you more about the depth and breadth and height of God's love and tenderness for you as you seek to be ambassadors for the realm of God. But true nonviolence is about claiming our enemies as kin also. This has been a really violent week. The peace negotiators were bombed. That's how violent it's been. There have been a number of mass shootings. There has been what is being called a political assassination. But there were actually 15 mass shootings so far in September. In August, there were 35 mass shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archive. So most of the shootings aren't even reported. So in my attempt to reduce violence in myself, because that's where I have to start, I'm going to imagine Charlie Kirk or Doug Wilson as the lost sheep. And I'm going to imagine our good shepherd searching for them. I'm going to imagine Jesus going out like Bjartur in some crazy snowstorm in order to find him and claim him on behalf of the living God as God's beloved one. I want to be very clear that loving these people as God loves them does not mean subscribing to their theology. It does not mean acquiescing or surrendering to their violence. On the contrary, loving these people, these tax collectors and sinners, with the boundless tenderness of God means doing what we can to prevent them from harming others. It means doing what we can to stand between the violence they are attempting to inflict and their intended victims. So it means nonviolent resistance. It means speaking the truth about the evil systems that we are all caught up in. And it means allowing ourselves to feel grief over all the violence that's happening. But anger, name calling, us and them divisions, these don't do anything to change someone else. The only thing that's ever really changed anything is love. Love, kindness, tenderness. These are the gifts of the Spirit. So instead of talking more, I would invite us to try a forgiveness exercise together. if you're willing to do that. So let's try to bring our enemies closer to us in prayer. I'm going to invite everybody to close your eyes and take a few slow, deep breaths. Just feel your feet on the floor. Feel your body in the chair. Now imagine a person who is deeply beloved to you standing in front of you. See this beloved one in your mind's eye. Look into your beloved one's eyes and smile at them. Let them know how much you love them with your breath and your smile. And after a few moments of gazing at them, say this to them in your mind. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. May you know in every fiber of your being how precious you are and how deeply you are loved. Now, with that beloved one still with you, imagine a stranger, someone you feel neutral about. Maybe it's the checkout person you see at the grocery store. Maybe it's the person who delivers the mail. Maybe it's a work colleague or a former work colleague you don't know very well. See this stranger, this neutral person in your mind. And then invite the neutral person to come into the circle with you and the beloved who's still standing there. See the person, this third person standing with you and with your loved one. And imagine you and the beloved turning to this neutral person and smiling at that person so they know how beloved they are. See the beloved smiling at them as you say these words in your mind to this neutral person. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. May you know in every fiber of your being how precious you are and how deeply you are loved. Take a couple more deep breaths as you remain in the presence of your beloved person and your neutral person. Now invite an enemy into the circle. Maybe this is a difficult person in your family. Maybe this is a powerful person who has caused suffering to others. Maybe it's someone who's harmed you. Maybe it's someone you truly fear or even despise. Open the circle and allow this person to enter into your company with your beloved and the stranger. And turn to your enemy and welcome them into the circle. And now, in your mind, say these words to that person. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be healthy. May you be free from suffering. May you know in every fiber of your being how precious you are and how deeply you are loved. Take another couple of breaths as you stand with your beloved, your neutral person, and your enemy together. Now extend the loving kindness even farther. Extend it to yourself in all your imperfection. Extend it to all creatures in the world without exception. Know that in God there is no enmity. In God there is no separation. In God there is no death. In God there is no violence. God is love. And as we dwell in that boundless love, we dwell in God. I'd like to end by having us listen to a song by John Prine just before our hymn of reflection.
I woke up this morning to a garbage truck. Looks like this old horseshoe's done run out of luck. If I came home, would you let me in? Fry me some pork chops and forgive my sin. Surround me with your boundless love. Confound me with your boundless love. I was drowning in a sea, lost as I could be, when you found me with your boundless love. Sometimes my old heart is like a washing machine. It bounces around till my soul comes clean. And when I'm clean and hung out to dry, I'm gonna make you laugh until you cry. Surround me with your boundless love. Confound me with your boundless love. I was drowning in a sea, lost as I could be, when you found me with your boundless love. By chance I should find myself at risk of falling from this jagged cliff. I look below and I look above, I'm surrounded by your boundless love. Surround me with your boundless love. Confound me with your boundless love. I was drowning in a sea, lost as I could be, when you found me with your boundless love. You dumbfound me with your boundless love. You surround me with your boundless love.
Thanks, everybody. May we always and everywhere know how boundless is the love of God. Our hymn of reflection is Like a Shepherd, which I'm not sure we've sung before, but it just fit this occasion so well. So it's in the Gather Hymnal 325, and Elliot very kindly recorded it so we could sing it like a